All right, good evening. This is the call over for the special meeting of the City of Sandwich. Tonight being March 23rd at time 5 p.m. Will you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Angie? Allegiance to the
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty, justice for all.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Arnett.
Here.
Alderman Chun.
Here.
Alderman Dankel.
Here.
Alderwoman Erickson.
Here.
Alderwoman Inman.
Here.
Alderman Ketchum.
Here.
Alderman Kreinbrink.
Here.
And Alderman Robinson.
Here.
Right, item B is none, item 5 is none, item 6 is none, 7 none, 8 none, 9 none, puts us at item 10. This is our new business discussion on the proposed 2026-2027 city budget. I will turn it over to the budget chair, Alderman Fred Kreinbrink.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yep.
I really don't have too much to say, other than I really want to thank the committee for their participation this year, as well as the efforts that were put into this by Angie, Jeff, and Wes, and the staff. There were a lot of back and forths. There were a lot of changes. There were a lot of suggestions. It was a collaborative effort, and I feel that although it seems like it's taken a long time, I think we accomplished a lot. Everybody was engaged, the participants and the members of the committee, and even the public when they were here. So I want to thank everybody for what they put into this. We do show a shortfall in the budget, which we kind of typically do. Very rarely do we ever have a surplus to where we can just go put it in a bank and save it for a rainy day. So with that being said, I'd like to turn it over to Angie and Wes and hear their side of the story before we kind of get into questions from the council members. I really don't know how we want to do this. I don't think any of us want to go line item by line item, but I'm sure that there's some questions that each of you may have once we get a little bit of a baseline from both Angie and Wes. So, sound good?
Sounds like a plan.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I want to start with saying Fred gave me a little bit too much credit on this year's budget. This is entirely Angie, Jeff, and department heads with a sprinkling of commentary from myself. But I am going to take us through kind of a summary, high-level overview of what this year's budget looks like in comparison to last year. And within the paperwork everyone received, you should see a City of Sandwich budget summary, all funds. It's a landscape report, if you can see that one. I'm going to take us through kind of that 1,000-foot view, summary level at the fund level, and then at citywide. Take us through some highlights, kind of give us an understanding of where we're coming from last year and where we're at this year. And again, this is all funds, so not just general governmental funds, but also our enterprise activities, so water and sewer. Highlight kind of at the citywide level in terms of total revenue for fiscal '27 is budgeted at $12,677,000, and I'm looking at that far right-hand column, kind of dark gray, total citywide. That represents a 12.7% increase over fiscal '26 budget, so not actual, but what was budgeted last year. So just shy of 13%, which is substantial. Primary drivers of that increase within this budget are in the tax bucket, so sales and use taxes, property taxes, the various state shared revenues that we receive. From a budgetary standpoint, across those different taxes are roughly a $650,000 increase over last year's budget. Also significant in the revenue side for increases is licenses and permits across all funds, with anticipated permit activity being up significantly. Total revenue in that bucket of $661,000 represents a $346,000 increase over last year. Charges for services are relatively flat year over year. There is a percentage increase in utility billing, but not material in terms of the increase. And then our interest in other categories at $488,000 is actually down slightly when compared to fiscal '26 due to a lower cash position that the city has and declining interest rates. Rates have declined over the course of fiscal '26, kind of undetermined on what that will look like in '27, but kind of holding the line, but less cash in the bank to earn interest. But overall, pretty healthy budget, still on the conservative side in terms of actual expectations, but a significant increase. When we flip kind of down below the line on the expense side, we have total expenses across the entire city of $14,195,000. This actually represents an 8.4% decrease over last year's budget. Last year was $15,500,000, rounded. So a fairly significant decrease. Majority of that, all of that really coming in the capital improvement fund. Last year, total capital citywide was $5.6 million. This year, we're at $3.8 million. So that's a $1.75 million decrease. But we did have other categories that obviously increased. One of those being personnel costs. So in that personnel services line, that roughly $6.1 million for fiscal '27 was $5.6 million last year. So that personnel line does capture a $490,000 increase. Now, there are a few things in there that are on the wish list, not necessarily approved by council yet, so that number could decrease from where it's at, but that is where we're sitting within this budget. There was decreases in outside services. Overall, citywide decreased by $120,000. The rest of the line items there, or the larger buckets, are relatively unchanged when compared to last year. It was really personnel and capital. There were the two main drivers, or two significant differences year over year. As we move down and kind of look at that excess deficit line, general fund on the operating side has a surplus of just over $60,000. Generally, once we fine tune the budget and kind of see where we land there in terms of the surplus, we usually budget that as a transfer over to the capital improvement fund. It's not reflected here, but any surplus that we have from an operations standpoint will go to capital. Biggest hurdle to overcome with this year's budget is that next fund, capital improvement fund. We're currently spending $693,000 more than what we have within capital. Now your question is, well, how do you spend money you don't have? Well, our general fund and our capital fund are one and the same. We kind of isolate capital as a sub-fund of general. So anything that we spend down within capital is just pulled or reduced from the general fund. So if you kind of lump those two things together, it would, anticipating that we complete all of the things that are in the budget, spend all the funds that we have allocated on capital, it would reduce the general fund reserves down to just below $3 million, which would put you at less than 6 months worth of cash reserves. And historically, we've kind of talked about the 3 to 6 month being the target range. So you'd still be within your target of 3 to 6 months worth of cash reserves, but it would be on the lower side that we've had here for the city in the last several years. When we look across at the rest of the funds, we are flat and or a surplus in more funds this year than we were last year. So that is a good thing. Kind of sliding across the bottom, the tourism fund is the next fund that has planned outflows. to the tune of $24,352, but that is a smaller fund within a much narrower focus. Funds do accumulate there to be spent down in future periods. And then on both the sewer reserve and water reserve side, so capital activity, it is showing a spend down of 312 in sewer and 366,000 in water reserve. That does include transfers from the operating funds. So
Actually, one's from operating and one's from the reserve fund. So in the sewer department, we're pulling from the reserve fund to the operating fund. Is that right? So that we
Yep.
can make the payment on the wastewater treatment plant. On the water side, we're pulling dollars from the operating fund, putting them in the reserve fund so that we can do the projects that we need to do.
yeah, so similar to the general fund, any surplus in sewer water operating, we generally transfer to reserve for future year spending. But as Jeff highlighted there, sewer operating does not have enough revenue to sustain itself on the operations side. So we're moving money the opposite direction, out of the capital and into operating. Water, on the other hand, with a sizable surplus to fund capital needs, but the capital fund is much smaller on the water side. So even though we're contributing $660,000 to capital reserve in fiscal '27, total spend is just shy of 1.3 million. So we have cash outflow within the reserve fund for water. In terms of total citywide spend down, it's $1,517,000. For comparative purposes to last year's approved budget had a spend down of $3,560,000. Now, that's not actually how fiscal '26 panned out. I don't have the final numbers, and we'll have final projections here after, well, obviously as of 4:30, but still fine tuning things. But significantly less than fiscal '26. That's kind of what we prepared in terms of a summary. Obviously, we're here to answer questions and run through things. But I think we'll turn it over for Q&A.
Yeah, does anybody have any questions about what Wes just rolled out? You understand the transfers of the money from those two accounts? Okay. So I guess if we're at this point, we can open it up for questions.
What are some of the big capital things that have been pulled, that have historically been in over the years? Is there anything that's been pulled out this year that's been in there the last couple of years?
You want to speak to that, Angie? I mean, the biggest thing, like in Sallyport, yeah, that's on the police side,
And that was pulled out?
yeah. Dump truck, right? We have it listed out here.
We received the one dump truck.
Right.
The other thing that was asked for that was pulled out was the chipper. We wanted to replace the chipper with a used one. That was one that we decided to push off. But there are some items in here. The biggest thing is, yeah, I don't know that there's anything specific that we're not doing. It's just we're getting caught up on, we have encumbrances with Latham Street, we have encumbrances with Main Street, and then the costs that are tied to the Pratt Road Bridge. Those are all things we're locked into, and that just kind of makes it a real tight fit for everything in the capital fund this year. And yeah, I guess that's probably the best way to put it. Would you agree, Angie?
Do you know offhand approximately how much was the Sallyport that was pulled out, do you know, for that? It's 500. Is it 500?
But what we did leave in there was the architectural expenses, so we can at least get a design.
I thought we already had designs.
No. We've, yeah.
We've had preliminary drawings. I remember looking at it.
There's various drawings that have been, there was a pole building one, but then it didn't connect to the building. Then there was building a long tunnel. There was the one sketch that I did that just put a lean to extend the roof out and just put the garages up to the building. It's never been validated. There's nothing that's ever been put out to where we could actually get a bid, right? So at least there's the architectural componentry to that, to where we can get some
was-
designs.
That was actually taken out, the 10,000 for that.
Oh, we took it out? We took that out too? Okay. I was trying to
Is
find
there,
that actually on the spreadsheet.
going along the same route, is there a generator still in there?
It is.
How much is that?
$145,000.
Do we really need it? Again, I don't go to the budget meetings because I can't participate in the budget meetings, so.
Is that the police generator?
Yes.
Yeah, it runs the whole data hub that has all their backup for all their cameras. So all the data and the fiber runs through the police department. That's the backup for all the,
But if the city's dark, it doesn't make any difference, can't access the servers anyway.
Right, and then I guess my question is that, is there really anything there that we need a big generator for? I mean,
But you bring up a good question, is what is mission critical in that building? Where they have squad cars that could be mobile command centers.
they always are mobile command centers, so that's my question. I mean, I know EMA has their own little separate thing or whatever, and I can see them having a standalone whatever for that purpose, but
But they haven't moved over there permanently, so they're not even in that location. Right. Yeah.
so again, I'm saying, is this something we can put off? The only reason we had a generator to begin with was because it was donated through the hospital and everything else. I don't know as if we would have gotten one for that building regardless, so.
Well, the manufacturer of that generator, was there a report or an inspection done, or like, it works right now? But has it been taken apart and say, well, maybe this needs to be replaced, or
I have
this
no
has to be
idea.
done? Right,
It has a bad cylinder, is my understanding.
okay.
And I think it was gonna be pretty significant money to repair that cylinder, and then if it's not just that one, when's the next one gonna go? So I think that's kind of where it was at. I mean, I think it was definitely, approaching $20,000 to replace that cylinder, I believe. And I'm going off of, that was a long time ago that the conversation took place, so don't hold me to that number, but
But another side to this is that the generator is in the budget currently, but due to the fact that there were issues with the way the bid went out, it had to be rebid. So essentially, this is something that's gonna carry over, right? I don't know what the rules are with having the prisoner location. I mean, if you,
We shouldn't have a prisoner there regardless. They're only holding cells, but with the change in the law, we're not even doing that. So really,
yeah, I mean, I have no idea of how it works. So you know better than me, so,
there's really zero reason. It's kind of a temporary holding. It's for somebody to be booked and released from there is what it's for. Temporary holding.
so they don't,
No one's ever held overnight. There should never be anyone ever held.
they would only be held overnight if there was no way to get them transported to another facility or released.
They should always be able to get transferred to another facility because whether they did the offense in Kendall or DeKalb, they're gonna go wherever they need to go if they're being held, but they shouldn't be held at our location. We don't have a 24-hour, because if someone is there, that means nobody's on the street.
Yeah, no, I got you.
Person's
No,
there,
I got
so-
you.
So you're better off driving to Yorkville or driving to Sycamore to get rid of that person, and then they're back here to do their job that they're supposed to be doing. So that's the whole point, where
Well, and it still comes up, what's mission critical in that building, number one? And whatever that is, we could be looking at UPS systems to keep them powered up 3 or 5 days. And it's far cheaper than $145,000.
I don't think UPS system is
Well, I mean,
I
you
don't
can
think
get a UPS
a couple
for
hours.
$2,000. I mean, it all depends on what is mission critical on the
You
equipment.
wouldn't get one to do it for 3 to 5 days at $2,000.
Not at 2,000, with the access control system, I don't know.
You'd probably be looking at $100,000 for something like that.
I don't think they're that high. I really don't, because we don't even have the details, what mission critical and how
So-
much watts we need.
So I think we're like splitting hairs like that, right? So, I mean, this is good dialogue, but trying to figure out what are other options, that should have been something that we thought about before we went into buying a generator in the first place, before a bid spec went out, not at budget time where we're trying to figure out where we're gonna go.
And I'm just looking for another way to
Yeah.
save money, but
No, I'm with you.
why buy something we don't really need? And I
Yeah.
guess that's my
I mean,
point.
could you put a 24 kW, $6,000 generator and put there and take care of the mission critical and shut everything else off? So you now have your servers going and now you have your lights in your prisoner area or whatever you want to call it, and then everything else is dark. Is that an option? That would be viable, right?
That'd be viable. And I'm looking at that money because there's a little thing out in right field going, that money, if we could save $100,000, we'd get rid of that water plant right there. Because we're going to take care of well two, but well one's still stuck in that building, and that building's in critical.
That's a completely different fund.
It's a completely different fund, but
Yeah.
if we're gonna,
Right.
And I would have kept it in the same fund, saying if we got rid of the generator, we could then build a garage / sally port, would be my point. For what we would spend on that, we could get the makings of a beginning of a garage sally port. Because like I said, I wasn't real thrilled when we were talking about that company possibly putting a battery thing, and the chief said that we didn't need a garage or whatever. No, they do need a garage. There's no police department that doesn't. The only reason we don't now is there wasn't one with this
Right.
building.
So would it be beneficial to put the architectural money back in there? I forgot that was removed. I really did.
If we took the generator out, I think so. But I just don't see a need for a generator.
I think looking at mission critical, there's only 3 buildings the city has. If there's a ice storm that takes out all electrical. Currently, that's the police department, that's the old fire department, and that's the wastewater treatment plant. Everything else has no backup power to it. And most of the community doesn't have backup power other than the current fire department and the hospital. I don't think any of our schools do, so we're looking at losing heat and relocating people. That'd be one of the facilities that we'd
Yeah,
have
and
to use.
I think the police department's put as a warming shelter, if I'm not mistaken. in
And
the-
cooling, yep.
So,
And I'm gonna say, if you're gonna put money in architect fees, why do that if we're not gonna be able to build something?
and I think you probably could put a smaller KW generator in, but you would have to rework the panels in order to make that work. And doing that could cost a lot of money in the rewiring. So,
Again, I don't know what it is that they need, and, I mean, does every community have a warming center? Does everything, I mean, that's a big cost to put on for a what-if situation. I mean,
Yep, only closest location is Aurora. Carroll County stopped running theirs as a emergency shelter.
so again,
What's
if
that?
that's, so again, if that's the case, no offense against discussion, why do we have to be the
Other places have those, Fred, I don't think they have
torch
the
holder in
backup
this?
ability.
oh,
When it comes to tax dollars, I just don't think we need to be a torch holder. Again, just one opinion, so.
I do know that all the city servers run through there. I do know that that's where everything's housed. I can't speak exactly to how that affects our SCADA systems and things like that for the water plant. I know we have the backup generator at the wastewater treatment plant, but that might be something that's worth some additional investigation if we were gonna go away from having some type of a backup power supply there. But I do know that when that building was built, everything was put in there so that all the servers are housed in one place. They're not here in this building any longer.
no, and it's a nice room, and
Yeah,
it's
it is.
secure. And, I mean, it's where it should be. That's not a problem. But like I said, if the whole town's dark, doesn't matter if those servers are running or not anyway, because we still can't access them from here.
Right, but my concern is that even if the town is dark, we still gotta make sure that the water is pumping and clean and, and that sewage is going where it needs to go. So that's, I think, that's the bigger piece that I think is important to investigate before we make too big a decision on that.
Well, then, I still want to talk about, we've got to find some money or do something about we're taking care of well 2. Well 1's still in that decrepit building. That building's got to get moved or tore down. And get well 1 isolated out of there. So I think that's very important. And we don't have anything in there for that.
So that goes back to the water
Reserve
reserve,
fund,
right? And that's
yep.
where the long-term projects are going to come in at time. So until the Clark Street building's ready to accept everything brought over there, that can't really happen, is my understanding.
No, well, everything, Clark, well 2 does go to Clark. Now we're rerouting and getting it out of that building. It's still going down there.
But I mean, to move all the operations over there is what I'm getting at. So all the control boards, the PLCs, the relays, all that.
That are for that building is my understanding. And once we just reroute it, it's all being fed to Clark anyway.
Well 2 is the only thing that gets filtered in that building.
What's that?
Well 2 is the only thing that gets filtered in that building.
Yeah, but it was my understanding though that every 1 and 2 needed to both be moved to the Clark Street before anything
One
could
is
be
already there.
There is a raw water line that runs from well number 1 to Clark Street at this point, but I believe that the plan requires that we add additional filters to Clark Street in order to be able to do both of those. I don't disagree that then, once 2 is in there and going, they'll both have the ability, but I don't know if you can do them both at once, or if we have the capacity to be able to filter both of them and treat them like we would once those improvements are made. So I think that those are some questions that need to be, no pun intended, filtered out and figured out.
Otherwise, we'll be talking about this in November, wanting to spend more money on holding it up.
I mean, in a perfect world, I have suggested that to our engineers, and I kind of got a pushback, just that, no, we need to make sure that we've got the whole plan in place before we tear the building down. But, you know, that's a discussion that needs to happen.
Well, I think if anything, we need a line item in there and try to figure out what that is gonna cost.
Yeah,
All
but I
we're
mean,
doing right now, we're just kicking that can down the road.
But you can always amend the budget, is the other thing. I mean, right now, taking money out of the water reserves and putting into the water, it's like if you left that 660 in there, right? And you budgeted 660 for the building. What are you gaining? Everything needs to be done at the Clark site, right? Tearing down the building's minimal. It's tying everything at Clark Street from the well, correct? And decommissioning it.
Decommissioning it, building 2 well houses. Everything now has to go to Clark, which we know. But I guess I don't have the information, what do we have to do over at Clark to take the overflow?
Yeah, I don't know neither, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. I can't,
That's why we're
I mean,
talking about it.
we could easily go and put a $500,000 line item to make that happen. But then it's gonna take more than a year to get the engineering in place, to get the bids contracted out, to get it put into play and make it happen.
I wouldn't think it's gonna take that long to do some of this stuff. We know that that has to go, and we're rerouting right now, correct? Where the plan,
Well, number 2
Right.
is being rerouted, yes.
so,
Bid openings tomorrow.
I mean, once that is done, why wouldn't we be going?
Yeah,
forward
I
to-
have no idea, to be
But
honest with you.
I don't think we need to be waiting on it and stuff, and it needs to be done. I mean,
Well, Steve
otherwise we're
Dennison,
gonna be wasting more money on a building that's gonna come down at any time, and one person's gonna say it's gonna fall today, and the next is gonna be it's good for,
20 years,
yeah, and,
I'd
but
live
it
in
can't
it.
be used as a heating
great.
facility.
what Steve had said needed to happen, once well 2 is rerouted to Clark, we can filter through Clark. And then when the building comes down, well one, it needs to become a pitless adapter, so it's protected without a building above it. That's what he said when he was here.
So what do you think a good figure would be to put in there instead of transferring 660 into the water reserves?
I think it'd be a good phone call to the engineer and say, we're considering taking the building down this year, let's get a realistic cost on taking the building down to pitless adapter for one, and whatever extra filtration we need at Clark to accommodate. Because right now, the only thing that is filtered in that building is 2. And if we're rerouting 2, why keep the shell that's falling?
Yeah, because I mean, you pull that 660 out of that as a revenue with your expenses, you're gonna be left with $20,000 in the reserve fund.
And realistically, there should be 0 engineering cost on it, because they're tearing it down, the pitless adapter and everything having to do with it is in the 308.
Okay.
It has to be.
Well, you would think, right? So, based upon our policies, our budget reserve policies, we're at the bare bones right now with that water reserve as it stands.
Hey, Fred,
You know,
quickly,
if there was a,
why isn't that in there on our sheet?
why isn't what, where?
Here,
Keep pointing at that.
Originally, we talked about doing a $1 million transfer from the sewer, but we pulled that out, correct? So what that would have done is, if we pulled the $1 million out of the sewer reserves to balance the budget, then we wouldn't have a means or a method to pay that back.
Robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah, and it'd be like me borrowing money from my sister, right? I'd have to pay her back, but I couldn't pay her back, right?
Job.
Whereas if I asked her, hey, can you come give me a help by shoveling my snow or mowing my lawn, she could come and do that.
I just was, I
Yeah,
just wanted to know.
no,
We
that's
talked
a good
about it
point.
in the-
We talked about that as an option, but I didn't think that that was a viable option at all. So,
I mean, if we're able to amend the budget, I think it's realistic to go to the engineers and say, hey, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna try and be proactive about this building. We're not gonna wait until November and say, can we spend another $125,000 holding it up? Let's go get proactive and see what it's gonna take to pull it down. And then after we get that realistic number, we can come back here, amend what needs to be amended, and then go from there. Otherwise, I think we're spitballing and just moving.
yeah, I don't wanna earmark money personally and then draw that way down. There might be some demolition, I mean, there might be a grant that we can get for demoing that, I don't know. You know, there might be something that we can beg, borrow, I don't wanna steal anything.
And that's what they had mentioned, since we've been fined by the IEPA due to that building, us getting a little more help is going to be easier since the fine came in.
I guess my point was, we had a line item there, then we're not putting it on the back burner. It's still there in front of our face.
Oh, I'm fine putting.
Well, we could add a line
A
item
line
to it
item,
and just not have
absolutely.
anything allocated, right? You wanna do that?
That's fair.
Angie, we could do that, right? So if we put it a 0 for, raising and reconstruction of,
I mean, right now,
House
we've got an estimate in there of $100,000 to reroute the well number 2. We don't know whether that's a good number or a
Well, we
bad
don't.
number, right?
Right.
So I guess what I would hope is that, you know, I suppose if we wanted to put a few extra dollars in there, we could, especially after we find out what it's gonna cost. But that's probably where it should come out of, and then even if the council decided later in the budget year to do something with that, it would still come out of that line item, whether it's budgeted there or not. Am I correct? I mean, again, the budget needs to be a tool
I think it will.
that, you know, guides us versus limiting us.
You got bid opening tomorrow?
I believe it's tomorrow, yes.
okay, so line item, we're gonna add that for raise and rebuild. well house,
Railroad. pump
Railroad.
house. Railroad well house, yeah. Okay.
and we'll just leave it as a 0 for right now, so it's at least in there. Good with that?
I am good with that.
Okay, perfect.
I wanted to bring one thing up on sewer, 'cause I met with Brad today. There's a $75,000 line item in there on capital. It was for the DSL pump. And he felt that we could make that move till next year, that the 75,000 wasn't critical for this year.
So that's on the operating fund?
It's capital.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, not that one, this one. It's-
Which one are you talking about, Adam? On the sewer reserve fund? Is that what you're
Sewer
looking at?
reserve fund, it's under the capital improvements, and there's a $75,000 line item for a DSL pump.
Okay. DSL pump.
So pull that?
Yeah, he felt that next year would be more realistic for it.
And is that just, so I can understand, is there a timing issue? Is there a personnel issue? Is there life expectancy that was?
It's a life expectancy with the pumps. He thinks he can get one more year out of them.
Okay. Are you good with that, Angie? Move that to 2027 or 2028? Okay. Since we're talking about sewer and water, the budget does account for the other 50% of the body to make the whole. Is there any discussion about that? So that would be 3 in the sewer, 3 in the water then.
I'm for it, so.
That spot was pulled from the PD, correct? There's no more talk about adding another one at the PD?
Yes, that was pulled. We pulled that from it. I mean, it was talked about, it was presented. But at this point, I mean, it's hard.
It's not needed.
It's hard for us to go into a hole where we know we have a known deficit with personnel in the other operating budgets. And then here, it's a nice to have to improve. I mean, I'd say let's buy the flock cameras to help the officers get what they need. You're gonna say no, but.
I'm gonna say no, absolutely,
Yeah.
because that's not what they need,
But
and they can
what
still
I'm
get
getting at
assistance
is,
from that.
if we could put a person here doing the physical work versus going and working that covert operation, I know it's beneficial, but we can still get the benefits from that group. If
We do,
if
and
we
if you-
need them, we call them in.
If you look at that report, they have been operating
Yeah,
here.
they have.
They've been successful.
Yeah.
Without us having somebody in
Yeah.
there.
So, yeah, that was pulled, Rich.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I would be okay if you're asking opinions for that to turn into a full instead of the 0.5 for each.
Okay. Are there any other questions, I guess, about the sewer and water since we're in here right now?
Do we have a list of what the extra 0.5 will be doing for each of those? Did any of the superintendents, when they came, tell you what that change would be or what those responsibilities would be?
It was discussed that as far as daily operations of the sewer plant, there's a lot of stuff going on where it needs 2 people. And where the testing requirements and everything are bringing the lab more into the equation. So there's a lot of things that can't be done until that person's done with their work. On the water side, there's a lot of valves and a lot of things that need to be looked at and evaluated and tested and monitored, as well as they want to get somebody that can be more of a worker bee, like run the machines, be an excavator for them so that they're not stealing the bodies in from the street department and dropping Nick's department down. So they'll be more holistically able to take care of themselves versus relying on the other departments as well.
So is there a change in the job descriptions from the current positions?
I don't believe there will need to be a change because those job descriptions, they should have to do all those activities already.
Good.
I know that there's a formal process that has not been exercised with the request of those personnel, so do we hold those positions until those obligations are fulfilled? Meaning, make sure the job descriptions are right, make sure that we do have principal duties and responsibilities. We have KPIs put into place, so we know that what work, we have a lot of work to do. This is what I keep hearing. We have a lot of work to do. We're not getting to it. I don't know what that work is, right? Doesn't mean that it's not there, but I don't know if there's 35 valves that are broken and need to be worked, or 3 hydrants that are inoperable. There are, 42 meters that are failed that we need to go back out and change, but we haven't done it. So is it fair to say that we want to
Yes,
revise job descriptions?
make sure everything is the way we want it.
Yeah, I think there's probably already a .5 job description. We just gotta rework them, that's all.
Yeah, I
Make sure
think,
it
I
all-
think,
they all-
I think
everything
it's what they're currently doing, but an extension of, right?
Exactly.
But we need to also follow the process so that we're not just free willy-nilly in it, right? So revised job descriptions,
I believe we just did that with Derek because he had to reapply to the position to move from streets to sanitary.
He filled the vacant position, though. There wasn't a creation of a job for him, he filled a vacancy.
No, he filled the position of somebody at sanitary that left, so he filled a position, but he is being used as the .5.
okay, so duties and responsibilities, revised job descriptions, KPIs for measurements. Can we get that stuff to the mayor? Is that how it goes, Mayor?
Yeah, so we follow the personnel policy, we have to write up the new position, have it approved, put it on file, it's also what we judge them by, so make sure that they're in their probationary stage, that they're meeting those requirements, the superintendents follow that, and then it's also what we evaluate them against.
Okay. So we'll follow the employee policy manual and we'll get those things in there and then you'll bring it to the council? Is that true, Mayor?
Yeah.
Bring to council for approval. Does it sound good?
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if the superintendents already did that.
I don't have anything. Jeff, do you?
Nope.
Okay. Angie, you haven't seen anything, have you? Okay. Okay. We'll pull that out of there. So we'll go down sewer and water then? Rich, I think you had asked what else was removed from the capital fund that had historically been in there. The one thing that was removed out of that was street lighting, the downtown street lighting project. We've allocated a couple $100,000 over the years, and we've never gone through with that. The group kind of talked, or the committee kind of talked about, are decorative lights really what we need, or do we just need lights, right? So is it time that we go back and we revisit the design? Is it time that we go back and revisit the placement of the lights? Is it time that we go back and revisit the why and then come up with maybe a different game plan? So if the lights that are out here right now suffice, if they worked, would we not just be better off going and replacing the feeds to the lights that we currently have and get them working again? Versus,
If
you
that's
know.
possible, I mean, we should have
Yeah.
done that for years, because it's been how many years? 5 years that we haven't had downtown lights?
That's
So-
what I asked several meetings ago.
yeah, so what happened is that it got to a point though where we wanted these decorative lights and it's either all or nothing, right? So at this point, it's time to kind of like look at it and see what we can do. there's money in the maintenance account for maintenance of the streetlights, so I think we can potentially get some of that stuff worked that way. But,
Well, the money that we had budgeted, where's that money going budget-wise then?
it would be going back into the general fund,
Okay,
right?
because I would be opposed if that's going back to general fund and it's going to stuff that is, let me say anything we're talking about right now, towards the generator, towards anything that's an extra thing that I think we need lights instead of a generator for the PD. But like I said, if we're not gonna do it, I just don't want it to be same thing. I don't even know if we have in the budget anymore for the Northeast, for the, investigating the flooding and stuff like that. We talked about we had put money in there before for, engineering, for buying property, for stuff like that. And again, I don't know, I'm just curious because I haven't been
Yeah,
to
so if
any
you
of
look
the
at the capital fund spreadsheet here,
You have nothing under street lighting.
yeah, there's nothing underneath the downtown street lighting. There's $145,000 in there for the generator. But like I said, had the generator been replaced this year, that would have went this year, and then that 145 would have then been street lighting.
Not really, because we wouldn't have carried over the 145.
You just bursted my bubble. I was
I
trying
know.
to, I
I'm
was trying to,
just trying
trying to
to-
float it.
I know. And that's the problem, when we
there-
don't get these projects done. they
Correct.
Need to be
It messes
reallocated.
with us.
Or the dollars go away, because the reality is we don't have new dollars coming in every year to go to the capital fund to pay for
Right.
these things. So that's the real challenge here.
And that's what I'm saying, if we already have money in, and again, I wouldn't wanna waste it on the decorative lights. If we had lights that worked, I'd be happy with that.
At this point, that's what we need,
Right.
right? I mean,
Would it be nice if everything would've worked out and they did it, but
Yeah, that's our challenge, is that it doesn't self-replenish.
I mean, we talked about once they redid Railroad, or we continued all the way over, because I think, isn't there something to do with the fire department number 2, where we have our electrical thing over there, that's,
yeah, I think it all now goes to this back controller, if I'm not mistaken. I think they,
well, that's the
off of
one that
that
every
one.
time there's moisture,
yeah, and then
Off and I only
that
think-
one got fixed, and now the problem's gone down a span. So it's basically, we're gonna have to do a leapfrog approach.
All right, so I have a question on land acquisition. I know that we started the process for eminent domain for Main Street. I see you took $30,000 out of there, but I think that was the amount for that property over by Shell.
That is currently not in the budget, it probably
Yeah, but
should
still
be
in
if
the
that's still something we're
process.
working on.
So
It's still in the legal process.
for Main Street, and you're talking about the one we tore down?
No, you're talking
No.
about 108.
You're talking about by the Shell gas station?
why are we doing eminent domain? Or maybe we shouldn't talk about it in an open meeting.
It's already in the process. It was our conversation about needing that for parking.
Thought we were gonna try to buy it, but because they didn't answer us, we're just doing eminent domain.
Yeah, we talked about it in,
Yeah, so I think that probably should be in there, because I'm sure that's gonna come up, because if,
Where we at with the sale of that lot, that house got tore down?
it is tied up, Don, with the county, determine who has possession of that.
Okay.
I mean, if we get it, we could decide if we sell it and recoup our funds, or we do something with IVIC and let them help us recoup our funds. I think we have some
Yeah.
options.
Well, I would hope we'd be able to sell it enough to recoup whatever it costs us to do all that.
Yeah, I know you'll get a legal update. When you get yours, I'll actually get mine too. But I think we do need to know the status of that. I've inquired about quite a few of those things. My understanding is it's with the county. And we've asked for it, and we're just waiting to see if we get it. So that's always an option too. We could get it, turn around, put it on the market, and recoup funds to buy the other piece, or. That's my only request, is you might want to consider leaving that in there. I know it doesn't help the budget, but that's probably imminent. There's my pun for the night, Jeff.
There you go. Oh.
Because it's still doing the legal course.
So you're saying the $30,000 that was in there should remain in there?
I would think so. It
But if
finishes
it's
that
eminent
process.
domain, we don't pay for it.
No.
Oh, sorry, we gotta pay a fair market value.
Right.
So, I mean, another option that we could do is, we do have some other properties in town, right? So, we have the lot on Main Street. We could always say that, put that up for sale, and whatever we get for that lot, put the lot up for sale on North Main Street, whatever we get for that lot, we take the funds for that and allocate it towards streetlights. So you're taking a revenue and allocating it specifically towards a specific area. We could do something like that.
I still think that's a viable lot, Fred. I know we disagree, but that's the only lot we have on the south side of 34. I think we're probably better off trying to sell the lot we acquired by the bank as the alternative, most likely to get funds first.
Well, figure they had that one for sale for how long, and nobody bought it except for us, so I don't know how.
But I think it's part of our marketing, right? Can we market it better, put something in there, that does two things, sells a lot, get the money back, and then generates revenue?
Well, looking to get money for funds, how quick can we do something on 34 by the old DC pages?
So we got the quick claim deed for that. It just has to be filed and verified, and I think we could, you're correct on that. We could also move that and figure out what we could get in return. It's just, Jeff and I received the legal confirmation from the state. We haven't, I guess nice way to say it, we can't verify yet that it hits the books, but that'll be part of your update.
Yeah, 'cause it'd be nice to see that one just get gone right away.
Yeah.
I do have a question about the capital fund revenue. I see there the 416,700 for, is that the state grants? And is that money we have then? Because I haven't heard anything about that safe route to school.
No, we had to budget it in the case that we do get that grant. I mean, if we don't, we're not gonna spend the engineering or, right, we have $75,000 in the budget for that, $250 for the grant money. If the grant comes in, we'll get the $250. If we don't get it, I wouldn't spend either, or you spend $75,000 on sidewalks.
Because we've never gotten it, right?
Supposed to find out by the end of the month.
Sorry?
We're supposed to find out by the end of the month.
Okay.
That was
Yeah.
the original timeline we were told.
So if you look down below, it has the 179, 325, those are highlighted as grant dependent, and that goes up to the numbers up above.
I'm sorry, say that again?
So if you look at down below here, where it has the 179 and the 325,
Uh-huh,
right? See how it says grant dependent?
right.
That then ties up to the numbers
That
up
ties
above.
up to that number there,
Yep.
okay.
Right, and the other one, Rich, is that one we got from Demmer's office. We're still waiting on that thing. It's still it's still caught in the bureaucracy, but once we
Like
get
almost
it.
5 years ago
Yeah,
now?
I know, it's crazy. So they keep telling us yes, and that's to do the other HVAC unit here, and then to remove a fuel tank over at the old police department.
The tank we have to remove by the EPA.
So Mayor, are you saying to add on the capital, the biggest thing is to add to 30K for land? For
would.
this possible eminent domain?
I would, and then this possible sales, as Adam referenced, might be possible, and those might come as unbudgeted revenue, because we just don't know when we'll complete that, but that's a possibility, that we'll have a revenue offset or more.
So on the revenue side, could we put a line item sale of city-owned property with
Yep, then
a
it's
zero?
Zero change.
And then that'll be a line placeholder?
And if it's more, then it helps our budget.
And then change that to 30,000? Is everybody in agreement with that? For those two purposes?
And it's a zero offset.
Okay. the attached spreadsheet on the back then has everything that's in the capital. So the Public Works has been working real good with the sewer department, so they're gonna do a swap of a vehicle. We did have a dump truck in there, another dump truck, but that was pulled. And we had a wood chipper that was pulled.
Fred, when the chief came, did he talk about any surplus vehicles with the York Council? committees?
We've been told that the anticipated location for those vehicles is probably gonna be the building department.
Yeah, probably repurpose it, but then that should free up their vehicle possibly. Okay.
We'll have 4, right?
What's that?
We'll have 4, right? That we can swap out.
Right,
4
that's what the,
vehicles
that's what the loan.
The
for
sewer
the-
is only one.
Yeah, there'll be total of 4, I believe.
for the police department. When we get those, there's gonna be 4 squads.
4 squads.
Yeah.
They were saying the 19s.
Building department
on-
don't need all 4.
No, we'll have to figure
We only
out,
have 1 employee there.
yeah, Matt, we'll have to figure out like how good those vehicles are for swapping out.
Well, I understand that, but
Yeah,
like,
but I
Oh,
agree.
sorry,
there'll be
the
4.
EMA group is probably gonna get 1 or 2 as well, cause they
Right.
have those other vehicles that are,
right, well, that's what I was saying. I'm like, well, building department can't get them
Yeah,
all.
there'll be surplus vehicles of some type.
How many vehicles we gonna have EMA? We got
I
two
think
decent
right,
ones
I
now,
think right now they only have 2.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
director,
and I think
assistant
one of them is the other old vehicle. They have 1 newer one and 1 older one, if I'm not
Yeah, 2
mistaken.
newer ones.
I think we need to revisit our fleet plan all across.
Yeah,
Yeah, we need to look at that.
That was something that we brought up in the conversation of the budget committee as well.
because it sounds like it's gonna go back to the olden days where the PD's got 17 squads and 15 people.
Hope not.
Yeah, but that's what it sounds like. Frustrating. Oh, my mic was on.
Any other questions on what we have for the capital?
We're keeping the downtown lighting placeholder in there, right? We're just gonna leave it there.
We're gonna add that in there as a,
Isn't there already there? on that?
it's there already as a 0 for
Right.
right now.
But it's a, okay, it's a
Yep,
placeholder.
it's a placeholder, so we can see where we were funding it, and then what was, so if you go back to 25, we budgeted 250,000, we only spent 22,000 of that 250,000. And last year, we didn't budget anything for that then either. Be the second year in a row. Nothing was budgeted for street lighting. I think last year we didn't budget anything because we didn't have a plan. And we got the plan and it shocked us.
Right, we had it out to bid, it was about 750,000 if we were gonna do it all, we had 250 in the budget,
Right,
and,
Then we looked at a grant and that didn't work out.
yep.
right.
What are those lights gonna be on the Main Street project once they put them up here shortly? Are those
Antique.
normal lights or are those the decorative lights?
Those are the antique one, Riches, that match the center, and they just only go up to Second.
Okay,
And I thought they were supposed to be up by now, so.
there's,
No, they're not up as of.
I know they're not, but they're supposed to. They'd look very nice with those in there.
it will look nice, plus people will be able to see the, storm drains and it'll be easier to clean them that way with lighting.
Probably.
Fred, re-clarify here, you had the 179 for expenses related to the tank removal and the annex, and then another 225 for the possible grant for safe routes to school. And you said those two numbers are supposed to reflect that 416 on top?
Well, it's the grant dollars, so it's slightly different. 325 plus 179
Yeah,
is
it's
424.
504. Nothing lines up.
Sorry, 504.
That's because the grant is only 166,700. You see that from,
Yeah.
yes, this current year?
We had to pay a portion.
166,000, yeah.
Okay, light bulb.
That's all the grant was for, but the expense is greater.
Okay, light bulb.
And then we'll just have to make sure if we do get the grant, which I hope we do, that we keep it under budget, which means we set the scope and it's no more.
Does anybody have questions about like the impact fund, impact fee fund? Try to get some of these little papers off the desk.
I mean, there's not much we can do about that. It just has to do with growth. The only thing we do is maximize the investment time that we hold on to those funds. We certainly might want to ask our counterparts what they've done with those funds, since we passed those on to them.
The police pension fund. So we don't have actuarial numbers yet, but this is a number that we've taken off of the past ones to try to,
It usually comes like
Figure
a
out
week
where-
after we finish the budget and vote on it.
yeah.
Just being honest, that's my experience.
So
We have a good idea what it is.
my gut is that this number is gonna be less than what they're saying we should, but it's still gonna be more than what the minimum state participation is. We've been overfunding to try to get capture on that debt that we have, right? Unfunded debt. So we'll probably have to come back and figure out where we go in the next fiscal year of how to put that. Plus, we have a retirement coming in that's gonna start hitting. So those withdrawals are gonna start compounding.
Yeah, as a reminder, this one's essentially a year in arrears. We have our fiscal '25 audit. Those numbers are used by the actuary to come up with what do we need to fund for the next year. We make the determination of what we're gonna fund when we do the levy in the fall. So when you guys approve the levy, that was based on the actuary's numbers from last year. That was in December. Those tax dollars come in fiscal '27. So that's the number that's in the budget here. The $865,000 is the state minimum funding amount. It was $90,000 less than last year. Last year, council still did the 100% target 2040 number, which was $955,000. There is different bills out there to extend the amortization period out another 10 or 15 years and then move the target back to 100%, which would essentially reduce your required contribution because your amortization period is going from 14 years out to 30 years. So if you look at it like a mortgage, you're going from, a shorter period of time, so more payments in a condensed period to a longer period of time to pay that off. If that goes through sometime in the next couple of years, then pension funding will go down. But right now, the pension fund, and I know we don't have the notes in the packet, I think it's 48% funded, 49%. So the liability is pretty substantial.
And at 865, that's what we had in the levy then?
Correct.
Wasn't it less than that? And then
Where is it?
I talked you into doing more?
AJ has the
Yeah,
answer for you.
we
Sure,
both
sure.
fought for it,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
It was less because I knew we needed the funds and we'd overfunded it compared to the past.
Oh, come on now.
We can always
We're,
catch up.
we're still in an okay spot.
We can always catch up on it.
So any other questions with that? MFT fund, I think the biggest change with the MFT fund is where our road salt is gonna come from. So, due to timing issues and having to create, have it with an ordinance draft and that sort of thing to get accepted into it, we're just pulling the 50K out and putting that into the operating budget. It's just a timing thing. I do remember that going on years ago, and I remember like it was a mad dash every year with things being added, maybe at the 13th hour, so. That's going to the wayside.
When are we gonna actually find out the reality of the state's carnival that are doing the MFT funds?
Someday.
Could be tomorrow, it could be 2 years from now, or sometime in between,
It's
unfortunately.
just a roll of the dice, keep on going until you don't have it?
With another municipality that went through a similar review and process, it was about 20 months from the time they first reached out to the time we determined how it all shook out, so.
Is it wise to increase it from 330 to 350? It's a $20,000 gamble, isn't it? I'm just asking. It just seems like, are we just dreaming that we're gonna get that extra 20? I mean, I know it's crystal ball, but
I mean, the state is increasing MFT tax every year. They are indexing that, so, I mean, the increase there is a marginal increase in the tax dollars collected and then
so you're
distributed to
comfortable with
us.
that 20?
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that, I mean, I'm talking about the 85% of new MFTs the state was gonna take. I don't understand where
I
the
don't think
new
we'll-
MFTs start and the old ones.
Yep, I don't think we'll know, Adam, until we find out what they're doing with their motor fuel tax. You're talking about the diversion to RTA? I don't know what that number looks like. I don't know that we will till we maybe survive a first year of how that affects our budget. One way to counter that is putting in a gas station someplace we're not at. Other than that, you get what you get. I mean, I know that there's conversation about what some other corridors might look like for development. That's the only way that we'd get something extra. Until then, I think we gotta see what the state plays out and gives us. I think you either hold the number or you reduce it, but we won't know the reality. It's much like our personal property replacement tax. We don't always know what that is till they tell us what it is, and that's usually August. We do our budget in April.
Yeah, and then on a few occasions over the last 5 years, they came out and said, oh, we misallocated, so we're gonna reduce future distributions, so it's kind of all up in the air.
And unfortunately, they can do what they want to do. They tell you at the 13th hour, right?
Unfortunately.
Oh, sorry, we messed up, or sorry, we paid you too much,
Well, they do such a fine job with their own budget, so.
right?
I mean, this year, I think our budget looks good.
Yeah.
This year, our budget looks good, and I think we know that we've got some structural deficits. The bridge is something we just can't get away from, which has caused most of our problems. We did raise the sewer quarterly amount from 10 to 20. You can see how that would help the sewer fund. That pays our loan, and I think we just get the best budget we can pass, and get it done in time, and then see what 6 months look like later. And then if we can make changes and need to, then we do. We've talked about it the last couple of years. For those of you that are new, sometimes we may have to do that. We haven't had to yet, but that's an option.
I do have a question. In raising the 20 for the sewer fund, I've asked if we could start a savings account towards that belt press. I mean, we're talking $1.5 million that's going to hit us in the face real soon. So is there any way to take the additional funds from raising that and just set them aside immediately into some type of fund to start building towards that?
So that change represents $108,000. I don't know that we could do the Adam until because we haven't made a full payment yet for the loan. We made a partial payment. And maybe we need to see how our revenue comes in to make that first full payment.
Well, the good thing, though, about the sewer reserve is that you do have, at the end of all this, you have 4.7 million in there, right? So even though you don't have it as a line item in here as like a catch-all, I mean, we could theoretically take that balance and create a ledger of what you want that to account for, meaning this amount is your minimum that we want to hold into the account to stay 3 to 6 months. And then the rest is what we want to have in here. And if there's a differential between the two, then we could figure something into there. So if we took the fees, right, for instance, the change in the fees, and say all of that money we want to appropriate towards that, we could go that right.
That'd be
route.
nice. That way you're starting to see a fund instead of, when it comes to the day to where you need the piece of equipment and we're all, oh God, the world's on fire, we need $1.5 million. Well, we've actually been putting the money in the piggy bank.
Yeah, I think you create the line item, Adam, and then see how this first year goes and then allocate it. It'd be much like how we envisioned the gaming tax and we rolled that in and applied that towards sidewalks. It'd just be the same example. I think we just need to see what that full payment looks like.
That sound fair? I mean, we could say that increase in those rates would go towards that, something like that? Might be hard to track,
I mean, you can.
or we could just say what that,
However, even with increased rates, I mean, we're looking at a deficit within the operating side of the fund. So it's not like that 108,000 is there for earmarking elsewhere.
Yeah.
no, I was talking about the sewer reserve.
Yeah, remember, so it's got the,
It does have that in there.
it does have this deficit, and then that comes out, goes in the sewer
Yeah,
system.
so the rate increase comes in on the operating side.
Correct.
And unfortunately, we're still at a $256,000 hole on the
Right.
operating side. So technically, there's not funds there to earmark. You do have, as Fred said, 4.7 million anticipated left in fiscal '27 within the reserve side, but until we shore up operating, that's going to continue to decrease by 250,000 a year. Because although rates are going to increase, personnel costs, everything else still goes up. So
I think you had the line item, and then as these new homes are being built, that puts more money into the impact fees, puts more in the sewer, into the water. We get through the year and see what that has changed our revenue, and then find a way to allocate that over and start funding it. And that's new taxes too, so that's property tax, that's impact fees, that's sewer and water. And if growth keeps going, then it helps us with our equation. All that billing and that infrastructure and the original water plan was all predicated upon constant new growth. If we have any of that stops, then it prohibits us from moving forward with other opportunities.
So are you okay if we just see where we end up and then figure out how we can earmark something later on?
Yeah, we're
Sounds
at
like there's not
this-
much of a choice.
Well, I mean, we do have that money there, so if something went wrong and we had to replace it as an emergent, we would have the funds to do it. Okay, tourism fund, any questions with that? This one's pretty straightforward. Everyone good there? The lights are giving off more noise than us. That's good. Okay. Excavation deposits, that's pretty straightforward there. Angie, you said you looked at it, and it's about 30 permits out there? Mhm. So once again, this is money in, money out. It's just basically a holding spot. And then apply for the permit, they do their work, everything's signed off, the money goes back to them. Could do is we could look at the EMA budget. It's on a big piece of paper. It says general fund, top left, then it says account name, it says EMA department. So overall here, Tony's pretty spot on with what he needed to do, made some changes, some modifications, some maintenance and that sort of thing. Overall, he's just asking for an extra $28.75 to make everything work. It says EMA department right there.
Oh, the last one?
And that build out from that grant, that money has sat in here ever since I've been on the council. It hasn't been expensed, so.
The EMA.
There was a small amount done just for the electrical.
Correct.
But that's it.
Yeah, it was like a $25,000 Trans-Canada grant, right? So I encourage Tony to reapply for it. Their community involvement investment grants are hopefully gonna be open here soon. I probably should check this week, but, they're pretty easy to apply for.
He didn't put anything in there for any vests or ID badges or anything?
He has everything. Last year, he went and upgraded everything, so he's good to go. Well, he put $1,500 in there.
Oh, there it is, okay,
It's a 0% change,
okay. Looking too far to the right.
but he did a good job with getting donations and all kinds of other stuff for some of the things that would be nice to have. Any questions there? Okay. Go to the PD. PD in total, you can kind of look up at the top there. Biggest thing that we have are the salary increases, and majority of that is contractual based. Also have the health insurance in there as a high dollar number. So in that top section, you got a total increase of $329,000. If you go down to the next one, there's been reductions within that line item, so it's a $4,200 savings. For utilities, bumped it up $2,000. So that deals with more of the phone side of the house. And as far as operating supplies, you can see there's been some deductions in throughout that, or remain flat, so a savings of $9,200. In the outside services section, we had the part-time social worker added into that. We have some maintenance agreements, dispatching agreements changes. There was a deduction in the services for computer investigation and a deduction in the vehicle squad cars. So that line item had an increase of $14,000 overall. And then underneath the other expenses, as for additional $930 put into there for the different line items. Then the police equipment, there was a reduction in there. $5,400. Then you get down to some of your other expenses for the debt services. Comes out with an 11% increase overall in the budget of $327,818. $327,818. So I think what Angie and Jeff both did this year is, they challenged staff into, you've been budgeting $6,000 in a line item consistently, and you've only been spending $4,000, you've only been spending $3,000. It's now time to realign those numbers to what the realistic expectations are. So I think what we may see at the conclusion of next year is some of these line items might be at or slightly above those line items, but it's ultimately gonna be up to the department heads to stay within their budget, right? To track those things and make sure they're good to go. Putting those safety nets out there, it's nice to have a safety net, but you also gotta have some skin in the game too, right?
I know it sounds like we're nitpicking, but they only spent about 1,500 in ammunition, and now they're still budgeting 3,000.
Probably that new tax the state's gonna do for five cents per bullet.
What's that?
Probably that new tax that the state's proposing per bullet,
Oh, really?
yeah.
I didn't hear about
That
that.
crazy lady out in Naperville.
I'm thinking, if I'm
Sponsor
not
of it.
mistaken, was there not a grant or something that we got that paid for some of that ammo?
They're on the
I might,
state, they're
I
on-
might be mixing, no, I might be mixing jurisdictions. There was somebody that they got some free ammunition.
I don't know. I don't think so. Not recently.
Yeah, I don't know. My suggestion is just leave it in there.
No,
as
I
it-
was
as
just
it
questioning it.
stands.
It just seems like a 50% increase, but okay. I mean, I know they're buying on the state purchasing, and they're getting a box of 50 rounds for like $14.99, which is actually a very good price, so.
I do have a question on the PD for their, 1.5 for their officer in charge. Didn't show up until, 24. And all of a sudden now it's gonna double, or it's going to 100% budget change.
Yeah, so that was something that was brought up. So what ends up happening is when a sergeant's not here and an officer fills in, there has to be a boss that comes in and takes over. And so that amount there, so it was 5,000, right, budgeted last year. It was actually 8,000. So that was a projection. So 10,000 is what they're saying it should be.
I guess I'm just curious, you've got 4 sergeants and a chief, so there's 5 bosses there. So an officer in charge is only gonna be when one of them is not. So it just seems like there's a lot of time that there's not a sergeant on.
I don't know if it's necessarily a lot of times, right? I think your first shift, you probably aren't gonna have that, because you're gonna have the chief here, but it's when you're on your alternate shifts, right? So if you took the 10,000, and I don't even know what they make hourly, right?
It just seemed like a lot, I mean,
Yeah.
and how did they not have it back in 23, but all of a sudden they've got it in 24?
It was a new initiative the chief put forward on the budget year. The chief recommended it during the budget year. It also could have been in bargaining. I'd have to go back and look.
So if you had $10,000 and they're being paid 45 an hour, which I don't know what the hourly rates are, we could probably figure it out. But 45, that's 222 hours, divide that then by 8-hour shift,
12-hour shifts.
or sorry. So 10,000 divided by 45. It's still 222, divide that by 12. That's 18 shifts that could potentially happen.
Okay.
So it's not, I mean, it seems like a lot, but when it's time and a half, you can, it kind of adds up.
'Cause I thought the wording in the contract was that it was when it was like appointed by the chief, the officer in charge, that had to be, and that's why previously the chief never appointed somebody as officer in charge, so. But like I said, this chief likes to spend money, so.
Well, I think you can make them justify it.
What's that?
You could make them justify it.
We could ask for clarification on that.
I've asked questions. Remember the K-9 question I asked?
Hey,
Yes or
Jeff,
no?
Yes, sir.
could you just circle back around with the chief and ask him how that officer in charge works and how it's operated?
Yep.
Does it automatically happen, or is it something that's appointed? Does it happen on all shifts or only certain shifts?
I believe it's only certain shifts, but
Yeah.
it's
I
just
believe
when
so
there's
too, but I don't
a
wanna,
backup.
the
but-
more that we talk and make assumptions, then it
Yeah,
skews
the
the
bigger problem
information. I'd
it
rather
becomes.
have it right from the chief on how he runs with it, so.
Yeah, and I think I knew we're gonna need a clarification on the video monitoring program expense. Once that system's programmed, you're not spending $3,000 to reprogram it. It's programmed.
Which line am I reading?
That's way down there, video
cameras.
monitoring program expense. Yes, $3,000 in there. So, even if they had to replace a camera, it's not $3,000.
Let me see if this has anything in it. 1 second.
Maybe. My question, if it's just for programming, that doesn't make sense.
$20.75. $57.21. This is for camera in building, fee was waived for the first year. So that's what it costs annually for the video surveillance system inside the building. From like the monitoring company or the host company.
No, they have their own server there where it's being recorded on site. I don't think you're going to the cloud. Or if we are, we shouldn't be.
I
think the video body cams do go to the cloud because that's a large data that they're storing there.
Yeah, that's different from the security camera.
Security cameras on the inside.
Totally different.
Can you just
That's-
ask them that too? Verify what the video program was for the 40, actually, video monitoring went down.
Those might be the same cameras we have here.
Went to $3,000. Yeah, I think it might, I think it's
Verkada
the,
ones?
I'm sorry?
I don't know if they still have the Verkada ones up there or not. I know we have the Verkada ones here. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, who pays for that?
The ones for here come out of the general fund.
What I don't see here is the maintenance and upkeep of the access control system. There's a yearly software charge that goes to that, because that's a web-based system, but you
Okay.
gotta keep, because if you don't buy it this year and you need it next year for maintenance, they charge you back years that you haven't bought it. So that should, it kinda tell me, is that being taken care of?
I'm not, I'm not following what you're saying.
The access control system that they have, it's the little S2 net box.
To get into the buildings?
To get in the building, your card access. There's a yearly software maintenance charge.
I don't have one. I own the server.
But that software though, if you have a problem and they need to do an update, they will back charge you those years.
The way it works for me at my fire department is I own the server, I own everything. If I have an issue, I call and I pay a tech fee to have it fixed. I had to replace the server, got struck by lightning.
Yeah, and it's different.
$2,000.
That manufacturer though has a yearly, what they go, software, SUSP, software update support.
Okay.
And if we haven't been paying it and we have a problem, we're gonna be back charged the years that we haven't bought it. And it can get pricey.
Maybe, can you ask that too, Jeff, just what the,
Yep, the video, it was monitoring or video programming?
Yeah, what was the video, what is he talking about, video
so
programming?
it's video monitoring program expense. I don't think it's programming, I think it's program expense.
And then you might as well, since you're gonna ask him, when was the last time we paid for software support for the access control system?
Need to find out if we own that or if we,
We own the box. We bought the box. That's how it's sold.
yeah, I've never had to pay anything, but I don't know who it's through.
Right. I mean, it's a nice system. I mean, that brain box that's in that server room, it can grow out in its current configuration to control 32 doors. What, we're using it for 9 right now? I mean, there's expansion if we ever wanted to add stuff.
Or a Sally port.
Garage. Garage is a salad.
Garage doors, yeah.
Call it garage.
Yeah, but you have
here from
garage
Ireland.
doors and access
Garage.
doors.
It's a garage.
Garage.
But it means if we ever do these doors, it can talk to that box over there without any further cost, so, other than the
You
hardware.
gotta have the tie,
We got the tie, because we got the fiber. Just an IP address.
yeah. Okay. Any questions other than those three things? Officers in charge, video monitoring program, and card access? Okay, we're getting close. Now we're into the general fund. So the first one talks about the revenue, where the money's coming from, the taxes, our different fees, our licensing, our intergovernmental agreements, our grants, charges for services, and your fines. We keep those numbers relatively low. Over interest. Our other revenues. So overall in our revenue, we're expecting to grow $670,000. When you get to the second page, it starts talking about the expenses. Talk about here with our personnel. Increases there of about 108,000. Now, you're gonna see in there, there's part-time personnel, office assistant, IT consultant, MPA student, deputy clerk. That's 84,000. If you look, it was increase. It was originally 94,64. That number increased after we did some, we'll just go back to this line item. I want you to think about this. We'll go back to that. That number increased after we talked about how some software further on was gonna play into the equation. Training and professional development, that stayed flat. Talked about the utilities, that had a slight increase in there. Then we go into our office supplies, that was flat. Get into our outside services, there was a deduction in there. $4,400. Then we get into our other expenses, increase of 14. Then we talk about our office equipment and computer upgrades. So there was no change there. If you look at the computer upgrades, it's in there as 25,000. There was a discussion with the budget committee for that ERP that would do all of our billing and everything like that. The only reason why we have to go to a fancy system for our budgeting process and for our utility billing is because of our utility billings, right? We could easily use like a QuickBooks for the dollars and cents that we have coming and going out of the city as a whole, but when we start talking about billing and forecasting and putting all those and making the bills and sending them out, we need something that's more complex. So we decided that we would do is we would have the city general fund pay for a portion and then have the utilities pay the brunt of the load for those. So that's why that's why that's sitting at 25,000. Originally, it was $100,000 in there, right? So what we did is we took $75,000 and broadcasted that across the other departments, and then we kept the 25,000 here. The savings that we saw down here, just to keep it flat, we pushed back up into part-time personnel. Not saying that that part-time personnel needs to be there in entirety. Just saying that the office staff has stated that they need help. The gut feel that I believe that the committee came up with is that we would like to start with part-time people and see how it helps us versus going full-time, right? Main purpose there is we don't incur additional expenses, so IMRF, all that fun stuff, insurance, the benefits. The other side of that is that we can kind of move people around, we can see where they might be best suited. And if we like them, we could change it to a full-time person potentially later on down the road. You can kind of test the waters. So that line item up there is heavy compared to what we had before. So that can be adjusted to free up a little bit of cash. Or it can be left, and we can see how it goes. We could restrict it until we have a true game plan moving forward as to which way we would like to go.
Yeah, I don't know if an IT consultant should be under that line. I mean, that would something you go out to bid for.
Give me high five.
Purchase services.
I'm not in favor of an IT being in-house right now. We don't have enough bandwidth that we need that. That was something too that I missed on the planning summit last Saturday was we need to look at our IT professionals that we have here. There's been multiple occasions where I've heard that we're not getting the level of service that we need nor deserve. So I have another firm that does computer service for another community, and the individual has a real good positive background with everything, with servers, with desktops, with all that fun stuff. So might be time to at least entertain a conversation with somebody to see what our next steps may be to benefit us as a community, so.
Do we have a contract with them when is that due? Do we know?
It rolls over year to year unless we notify them that we're not going to continue with their service.
Do you know when, is that fiscal year rollover or okay.
And I think it can be stopped at any time as long as we give proper
I'd
notice.
have to read it, yeah, usually it's like 30 or 60 to 90-day notice, I'd have to look.
So, but that's something that we should probably look at it too as well. So all in all, by the time you balance everything in here, the change is $121,000 in this, with 84,000 of that being the increase in the part-time employment.
I mean, you can, I guess we can leave it in there, but I would put a hold on it until there's justification why we need that.
Okay, so do something similar to what we said for the sewer, right? So the individuals that are looking for the additional help, we need to follow the employee policy manuals, we need to review the job descriptions, we need to extrapolate data, duties and responsibilities, as well as KPIs for measurable performance.
Like we were talking about Saturday, that restructure,
Okay.
I would think. Like, they definitely need help, we know they need help, but let's see exactly what they need.
Right.
Because otherwise, if we just give them a part-time employee, I mean, that's not gonna do anything. Like Denise might need something specific done that that part-time employee can't do. Or Angie needs something specifically done, but that person don't know how to do it.
Right.
So let's get with them and see exactly what they need in that office. And go from there.
Now, are we gonna put a hold on the administrator too, or no?
I don't foresee putting a hold on the administrator. I think now is the time maybe to have dialogue prior to going to a vote where we want to go. I know that the consensus on Saturday was as long as we were entertaining looking at other engineering firms with our projects moving forward, like we could shortlist, we could go qualify 3 different engineering firms. They could do sewer, 3 they could do water, 3 they could do roads. And then if we had a road project that we wanted to do, we would bid that out with those 3 vetted companies and let them bid on it. And it might be EEI, it might be FRK. But at least that way we know that we have vetted the projects with somebody other than EEI.
Well, I won't do an administrator if EEI stays on as our city engineer, as our permanent full-time engineer.
No, they wouldn't be our permanent full-time.
So are we going out for an RFP for a full-time engineer for the city then?
So my understanding of that, so I want to back up. When's the contract up with EEI for their professional services with us, do you know?
It rolls over again, it has a notice in it, just like everything else. They're all written that way.
So we need to look at that, Mayor, I guess, because Jeff's going to be gone in a few weeks. We need to look at that to reestablish a different firm for our city engineer. But as far as the current projects that like EEI is working on, HLR is working on, they would remain in those
That's what
until,
we discussed the other day.
until they're gone. And then anything new, we would want to bid out, make sure that it's good.
Because the only way to justify even having an administrator is if we can recoup the cost from somewhere else. And we've seen how EEI hits us right and left and extras and extras and extras.
We pay for engineering out of street, sewer, and water, all of them, right?
Correct.
So in essence, because we do that, we could actually, if we reduced our engineering costs, we could actually, at some point, if we decided to during the budget year, we could actually have an in-house engineer if we chose to do so.
Yeah, I mean, I think that might be a viable option. This is me just because I've been around like municipals and I've been around contracting and stuff. I think we would just have a hard time finding anybody that could cover all the principles. I think we would probably find somebody that is very competent and skilled in sewer, or in water, or in streets, but I think in trying to get them to do all three, I think it would be hard.
Well, I still think we would be using, but I think it would give us some sort of help. And again, it's gonna depend on what we decide doing, you know, if we go with the city administrator, I mean, we'd have to see what we get as a city administrator with the experience and everything. If they've got some engineering background and some public works background and stuff, education, training, that kind of stuff. As a city administrator, you know, that could work, but we obviously need help in the engineering / public works area. We've got good public works, but we need somebody to wrangle them all in.
Yeah.
And
And that's where I kind of brought it up on Saturday about like a good project manager, somebody that really understands how to pull all those loose ends together and compress them so it's all nice and tight, and then follow a cadence. And I think that would be something more beneficial in my mind than having an engineer here. But then again, having engineering background and the project management is very helpful, right?
and it's just a matter
Or you
of-
could also have just experience, 10 years experience running that, you'd be well off.
whether it be an in-house city engineer or just somebody that has the engineering background, I think they're gonna be able to save us some heartache and some expense with money that we pay to engineering firms, because if we don't know what the hell we're doing, they're just gonna, we're gonna get charged for stuff, billed for stuff that we don't know if it's a good price, a bad price, or whatever. I mean, and that's the only concern, so I don't have an answer, because right now, I'm 50-50 as far as city administrator or a in-house city engineer. So,
And I think I'm trying to think, you said something that sparked an interest, and then I kind of,
I guess my concern, if you're gonna hire a city engineer, you need to know what projects they're gonna do. We're gonna end up with somebody that sits in the back again and watches cameras and doesn't get out on the job site. So if you're gonna hire an engineer, I mean, it's like any other job. We would need the scope of things that we want them to accomplish.
well, absolutely, but I mean, the number one thing too, that you mentioned the other day, is when he's gone in a couple of weeks, who's taking these phone calls, who's taking, right? So that's somebody that an engineer would still be more competent to be able to give direction, where if there was questions for sewer, water, streets, or whatever, they might have the answer or be able to direct them. Because have said ever since I've been on this council, it's silly for anybody that calls in with a question for somebody to direct them to their alderman if it's a specific question about water, sewer, streets, because all we are then is a middle person, again, directing them. And that's something that people don't like. It's not good customer service. If it's a different type of complaint or issue that isn't necessarily a police, water, sewer, street issue, then maybe we point them in the right direction. But I'm just saying, that's been our whole issue, is that we need somebody who can be here to do things. So whether they're called a director of public works, a city engineer, city administrator, whatever, we need somebody that is the boss, that's here at the
yeah,
time,
and I think,
officer in charge
a
type thing.
complaint about your water bill is different than the complaint about, hey, I don't like the way that the contractor's putting my sidewalks in, right? So when those calls came in, I think it got directed to Nick, right? And then Nick, if he couldn't handle it, then it went to Kurt. And if Kurt couldn't handle it, then it just got paved and it was over and done with, right? No, just kidding. Then we started having problems when we couldn't handle those. I know that since the phone system's been put into place with the press 1 for this, press 2 for that, I don't get hardly any phone calls before, though. I was getting a ton of phone calls. I don't know about you all. Are you still getting a lot of phone calls from people for silly things?
I very seldom ever get phone
Yeah.
calls.
I mean,
Very
before I would get them all the time saying, I need to pay my phone bill, and I'm like, or my water bill. I'm like, okay, well, you go to City Hall.
Unless we have a big issue, that's the only time I ever get a call.
I got leaf blower calls today for the leaf pickup.
Leaf blower.
We don't do it in the springtime.
They did.
So,
Did.
Yep, today in Ward 1 and 2.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I warned you guys a couple weeks ago at a meeting.
Picking up the leftover leaves and
They were
testing
gonna
the
try to
equipment.
go
That's
out
stupid.
to pick up
That's
what was left.
absolutely
Because
stupid.
everyone was
Not only
already
that is they didn't
complaining
tell
about
any
it.
of us, so when it was, so people are like calling me and going, why didn't anybody
Alls I
tell
was
us?
told is that when weather broke, it was a couple meetings ago, we can go back in the minutes and find it.
No, I remember seeing something, but
Yeah.
I
But there was never a date told to me yet of when it was going out, so I have no clue.
stupid.
But
Well,
if
I-
that's the case,
I
it should
actually
have been on
don't-
our city website anyways.
I did get a couple complaints that the leaves weren't picked up and then it snowed and that was a mess, but that's when the machine broke.
Yeah.
So I don't think that it's bad that they're
No,
going out and
it
they're
is
picking
bad,
it up.
because now they're gonna expect it in the springtime, and it's a problem, because you've had snow, slush, and all the other crap that the snowplows have pushed onto the shoulders, onto the grass, onto the parkway, where these leaves are, and now they're sucking that up. So it's gonna be the same crap that was in the road, which is gonna be rocks, concrete, rebar, whatever, and then they're gonna have it broke
everybody, but no one
again
wants to listen.
because of that. What's that?
I said the
That
same
was,
thing.
and
They wonder
this,
why our
this
stuff
again
gets
is a
broke.
problem, why
Start
we don't talk
appeasing
to
everybody
supers
and
and
this is
have
what
them.
happens. This is why we shouldn't even do it.
Well, the
to
complaints that
burning
came
them.
today was because it was nowhere on social media,
I-
I'm just telling you, you already know
Yeah,
this.
I had
told-
no control over that.
I'm just
one.
saying it
That's
wasn't
not my
posted anywhere,
job.
so that's
We
why
have
my
the city
calls were today.
administrator that we pay a decent amount of wage to, that should have been taken care of, because he's Public Works' boss. He's in charge of all of them, aren't you? That's your job title, city administrator. You administrate the city.
That's fine. You knew more about it than I did, so that's good.
I told everyone in the meeting.
Fine. Fine.
Okay, so it's
We're here
over,
just
it's
as much
over and
as
it's
I was
done
here.
with.
So
If
like
we're
I said,
continuing it,
this
let's
is how
put
it
something
goes
on
here. No one
Facebook.
gets information about anything.
So can we go back to the budget then? So,
It deals with the
so
budget.
rebid city
Get another
engineer.
administrator. They ain't gonna do its job.
So rebid the city engineer component of the EEI aspect, right, as soon as we can. Then we want to qualify engineering firms to do work that we want to have in the future.
With, Jeff, you're compiling some of that anyway, right, with the stuff that you're writing?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what.
Oh, that's okay. Some of the stuff that you're writing us before you leave.
Oh, yeah,
okay, some of
I'm
the-
intending to, yes.
So yeah, some of that stuff will be already done.
Yeah. but
So,
I'm Woefully, yeah, that's fine.
Current work being engineered by EEI and HLR. Any other firms will continue. Any ongoing work will be continued, will be completed by current engineering firm. But any new would then go through the qualified engineers. Is that fair to say? Okay. So then that kind of brings back to the talking about the city administrator versus a city engineer. I personally think that we need to continue with a city administrator. And then I would love to augment then with a city engineer. I think when we have a better clearinghouse of individuals that are pre-qualified, and then we also have a different engineering firm assisting us, and maybe that engineering firm that's assisting us should not be anybody that's qualified to do the work as a subsidiary, right? Would that be, so if EEI, we're gonna say, if FRK Engineering is our city engineer. FRK Engineering should not be able to engineer any of the other projects. Is that something to think about?
As long as it's legal.
Or a certain percentage?
Just gonna say.
I think you'd have a
That's
tough
legal.
time with that one.
Well, all I'm getting at is maybe some of them are better at managing it versus, because then if they're our city engineer, then they can put stuff in the specs that end up benefiting them. They know it and they get an upper hand.
That's kind of why we went with HLR on Main Street instead of EEI. And that's why you end up doing the rubric for the different firms before.
Yeah. So that's something to think about, but I was just thinking that if you had that, that would be one little stopgap, but city administrator, then potentially project manager / engineer to then take care of the day-to-day operations on the cities to then push back up to the city administrator. Is there any thought on that?
Well, I think that's gonna be discussion at another time. As long as the placeholder's there for the salary, regardless how we fill that seat, that's all that counts right now.
Yep. Okay. Any other questions on the general fund? I think the last one we have here is the building department.
Can we go over the drug abuse fund,
What's that?
the drug abuse fund?
I asked if anybody had any
Oh, you
questions
did,
on it.
okay.
Yeah, sorry.
So there's nothing written on it, so.
Those are when I said, let's get these small ones off the plate. Building department salaries went up 2,500. That was for the IRMRF contribution. The professional development, Ian asked for a slight increase on the count for some certifications and so forth. Telephone, that went up a little bit. Total commodities for postage and office supplies and all that, some of those went up, some of them went down. Vehicles and maintenance, that was the one thing there. Now they have some equipment over there that they didn't have before. And when Ian had it at a lower dollar amount, and then we suggested we increase it, and then I saw that the Tahoe had transmission work or something, and it would have probably eaten all this money up if we didn't have it in there, so it's a good thing. Outside consultants, so he did a real good job looking at where we're spending our money, how things can be done in-house and that sort of thing, some of those fees. So he overall has a savings in here of the 71,003. Now that outside for the demolitions, that's a one-time deal, but the other ones up above for the outside consultants, that'll be a continuing savings if you were to end up taking that and extrapolating that out. So overall, the engineering department's seeing a decrease of that 60,000, or sorry, an increase of the 60,850. And I said that wrong earlier. I said that wrong. He increased those buildings because he needs the additional help.
I'm about to say,
I was-
is this with the new position?
No, so what, yeah, that has the
Okay.
new position in there, but my problem is my microphone thing here, the shadow is falling here, and it was hiding.
So, yeah, that was
yeah.
gonna be my question once you were done talking.
Yep,
All right, that includes the new personnel there.
correct.
That is already being applied for, correct?
That's in there, correct,
That's-
Angie? Yep,
Okay,
I wanted to make sure I
now
wasn't
this is a
misspeaking.
50-50 person, correct? As far as it's gonna do a double duty, it's not just building inspecting.
Correct, so this is what we
This is
talked about.
for code enforcement, and so that needs to be changed, that title needs to be changed in here already. Because that's very deceiving that he's gonna get that person and it's gonna be strictly him.
No, it says
for building maintenance
building
inspector.
official and property maintenance inspector.
Yeah.
So that's a property.
Where's code enforcement at anywhere? Because that's what we have as a position that's open right now. We do not have property
What's
maintenance
the actual
inspector.
position's name, Jeff? Is it code enforcement officer? No, property maintenance. Right, that's what it is.
I understand that, But right now, this position does not exist, but yet there's applicants for it. We went over this.
Yeah, if you remember in the original, it was called an inspector.
Okay.
That's where I told him that had to come out, and it's the property maintenance inspector. So that's doing the inspections when Ian needs some help. There's some certifications, but code enforcement's gonna be the main preface.
As long as we're gonna go over all that anyways, because before anyone gets that position, we need to go over and exactly, this is what they're gonna be doing. Just like every other position in the city.
You're talking job description.
Job description, just like for the office. Under who? We didn't approve of hiring a person for this
It was already
position.
provided in the
At a previous
packet.
council meeting, and it's in the minutes.
Sorry, I was right. We did save $60,000 overall. That damn microphone, I moved it.
It was, we
I
never
was right what
approved
I
a
was saying.
position for this.
It was already brought up to council. I'll give you the minutes, you can read it.
It was brought up, but we never voted for it, for this position.
I'll give you the minutes, you can look at them.
Okay, sounds good. I'll look forward to it. So I'm pretty sure we did not approve this.
So overall,
We approved it.
including the
Buys
position,
it in this upcoming year budget.
we still have a cost savings of $60,850 in there. So I think we do the same thing with this job position of having, it's already been pushed through, but do we have the job descriptions? We have that. Do we have duties and responsibilities listing? Do we have the KPIs and measurables? Do we have that, Jeff? Mayor?
For which position?
So for the code enforcement, do we have all the stuff needed?
Yes, there's already been a job description written.
Right, but do we have the other things, like what we're asking for the other new positions?
No, because I have seen no one put that forward.
Okay.
Ian had prepared the one for the new position.
He gave it to you?
When he reviewed the current position, he's the one that gave the input on it as he's actually technically the supervisor of the code enforcement position and process.
Yeah, I got you.
So he rewrote the job description as the supervisor.
Okay, so I'm just,
He has one employee.
no, I got you, but what I'm trying to do is if we're making sewer and water do everything that they need to do, any kind of part-time employee that we want to add additional, did we do the same for this position so that we're towing the line for all the positions?
They have not, and they need to.
Okay.
He was proactive in his
So
proposal.
can you have
Yeah.
Jeff, can you have a conversation?
I just need to
have
know,
that?
like, what of all your new positions and what you envision
Yeah.
them, and then they can be written. But it starts with the supervisor.
Okay, so sewer and water's gonna do that, general fund's gonna do that, as well as the building department. Perfect. Okay. Any questions?
What's our current timeline?
Angie, you got that memorized?
After today, hopefully everything will be set, and I can prepare your proposed budget for you by the 6th. Have that on display. You can pass your final budget on the 20th. Have your hearing on the same day.
Okay.
Do the hearing the same day on the 6th?
Yeah, no, on the
No,
20th.
20th.
Oh, on
The
20th.
hearing and
Okay.
pass your, yeah, final.
All right,
Give it to us by the 6th.
okay.
Does anybody have anything they want to add, change, amend? Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Okay, report of alderpersons.
I have nothing.
Should be pertaining to the budget. Okay, we do have audience comments. There's Mr. Richard Meyer, I'd like to address council. You coming up, sir? Jeff, you want to make sure the microphone's on? And Mr. Meyer, you have a total of 5 minutes to address council.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready.
All right, go ahead, sir.
I like living in Sandwich. I'm a 5-year resident now, and the first 3 years was just wonderful. And then there was a noise problem. I'm sure you've all heard it. It's from down the street in the industrial park. They got this machine that runs constantly from 8 o'clock in the morning until whenever they decide to shut it off, because I do construction myself, so I know the hours. So when they turn the machine on, I hear it in my house. I hear it in my backyard. I hear it on my porch when I'm talking to people on the phone. It's like listening to me vacuuming my carpet all day. That's how loud this is. It's probably less than a half mile away, but the noise comes running up the tracks, and I hear it. I even recorded the sound on my phone. I went down there and recorded the machine, and it's nerve-wracking. It's really nerve-wracking, because to walk outside and not hear nothing is really peaceful. The other day, they didn't turn it on, and I walked outside and I said, oh, geez, peace and quiet. We can all understand that, I hope. And then today, it's on again. I'm like, now here's the thing. I called these people up here last year about this. They've got my phone number. I've called them twice. I asked them, can you have the owners call me? And they said they would. But they never got back to me, which is fine. So I let it go. But I didn't move into Sandwich next to an industrial park. They opened up this concrete thing within the last couple, 3 years. I didn't move next to an airport and start complaining about airplanes flying over my house, okay? That's ludicrous. But to have the industrial park make all kinds of noise that I have to live with, which I really shouldn't have to, because it's nerve-wracking. I'm shaking now because of it. You know, it's like, it's really nerve-wracking to hear it when you walk out of your door at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm retired now, just retired. And there's the noise. And it goes until 8 o'clock. You can hear it at Art's grocery store. You can hear it bouncing off. I live by the fire department over there. You can hear it bouncing off the fire department. It's so loud. And I was over there one day, and I was recording from the street, the machine, and a lady stopped by. And she goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm recording that machine making all that noise. I know this is all hearsay. But she goes, yeah, I'm about tired of it too. I said, yeah, I am too, and I live way down there. So I'm probably not the only person in Sandwich that hears this noise constantly all day. And folks, I live in a community of good people. I really do. I've been going to the Sandwich Fair my whole life. I grew up in Oswego. I want to live here in peace. And yeah, I go outside and I play music out in my backyard, but we keep it cool. My neighbor Jeff, he don't care. The neighbors don't mind. I hear music coming across from Route 34 from the apartments. I don't say nothing because I know they're probably going to stop at like 10 o'clock at night. So it's the industrial noise that I'm dealing with at this point. All last summer, and now I'm dealing with it this spring into the summer. And they said they were supposed to fix it only because they were waiting on a permit to make an electrical outlet thing for this machine to run on electricity. Now it's either running on diesel or gas, as far as I can tell. But you can hear the machine, you can hear the exhaust coming out the top. And I even suggested maybe build a noise deflector, so it deflects the noise into the fields out towards the industrial buildings. I said, I would even come down and build it for free if you buy the materials. You know, that's as far as I was ready to go. It's that disturbing. Again, I really like living here. I have a good time. I got good people that live here. I got family who live here. I just want some peace from the industrial park. I hear the tractors backing up with the beeper noise, but it's a constant vacuum cleaner sound from their machine all day. And when the wind's right, it's even better. It's even louder. You go to my house across the street from the fire department, I'm right in front of Jeff's
Time's up, sir.
beverage.
Your time's up. Could you wrap it up for me?
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Again, I'm expressing this to you so that there is a noise problem in the neighborhood. And I'm sure there's other people who just don't know what to do about it. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
Where, you're saying this is coming from the concrete plant?
Yes.
Off of Sixth?
down there,
Sorry, off of Third, what is that, Third? Okay.
you know, where they dump all the rock into the bins and stuff, and they got the hopper.
Okay. Very good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other public comment? I'm hearing none. Is there a motion to adjourn the
Thank you all
special
for your
meeting?
time, I appreciate
Make
it.
that motion.
Thank you.
Alderman Chan, is there a second? Alderwoman Erickson, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Right, our special meeting's adjourned. Alderwoman Erickson.